Hey guys, Will, Mickey from Nexus Performance, and today we're going to talk to you about my current plans with my nutrition, or my overall plan with trying to gain muscle over the next few months to put me in a position where I want to be for competitions whenever they decide to come around, hopefully early next year. But with this muscle gain plan comes a nutrition plan as a big part of that. The nutrition is something that I've always got a lot of questions on. I definitely sit kind of outside the bell curve of normal calories. I need to consume a lot more than most people, which makes losing weight a little bit easier, but it makes putting on muscle a bit more of a chore. And yeah, so at the moment we've done some calculations. I've worked out what I've currently been eating to maintain my weight now, which is about 115 kilo mark. I want to get about to the 120 kilo mark fairly lean, which will put me in a nice spot to either go back down or go back up, depending on what I want to do comp-wise. And yeah, we've had to put a fairly hefty plan together to make sure that this happens, because when you're eating that many calories a day, it's super easy to kind of undereat. It's like one missed meal kind of destroys the surplus, and so yeah, I just eat the same thing every day for a matter of months. But yeah, Mickey's going to talk through the numbers for that. We've kind of calculated where I'm at, where I'm going to, made up a plan around that, and then I might talk about like the day-to-day stuff, the rest of the plan around the nutrition, and lastly a few of the questions that we've got about the plan.
Yeah, so like Will said, he does fit outside the bell curve of average people in their maintenance calories. So to put some kind of numbers into perspective for you, the majority of people with men sitting around their maintenance calories, you're kind of looking anywhere between 30 to 40 calories per kilogram body weight. And for women, that's anywhere between 25 to 35 calories per kilogram body weight. That's to maintain your size. So Will's current maintenance calories have him sitting at 47 calories per kilogram of body weight. So he's already pushing up to what people would consider a large surplus of calories. So that works out to be, on average, 5,400 calories a day that he is currently consuming to maintain his body weight. So that has him at 260 grams of protein, 830 grams of carbs, and 130 grams of fat.
So, according to my sheet, 800 carbs.
Oh, close enough. Good guess. But yeah, so what we've decided to do is push him into a more aggressive phase of his surplus calories initially. So when you're working out your maintenance calories, in order to push into a surplus, ideally we're wanting anywhere between 5 to 10% of your maintenance calories added to create that surplus. Now, for some people, they like to go a little bit excessive with their initial calories going into that surplus, and of course with that comes unwanted body weight, unwanted body fat, and general overall digestive stress and bloating. So with Will, we have gone a more aggressive approach initially, but it's still only about 10% more. So the 10% of calories has him sitting around the 6,000 calories per day mark to have him eating now into a surplus. And those macros break down at 290 grams of protein, 930 grams of carbohydrates, and 135 grams of fat. So percentage wise, the way that we've worked that out is we've done a basic equation with Will's body weight to get him his protein, and the same with his fat as well, leaving the remaining of the calories going towards carbohydrates. So the way that looks at the moment is about 60% of his calories going to carbs, 20% going to his fat, and then of course, like we've said, the initial calculations were based on his body weight for protein.
And it's not like these are perfect numbers, like it's not like everyone has to use exactly this amount. It's, my protein's a little bit higher than it probably needs to be, just because if it was a bit lower, the meals would look a bit sad and not really enjoyable, just like all carbs. And the others are just kind of, the split isn't like exactly like, oh, this is the perfect amount. It's just that it kind of suits the foods and the things that I eat. It's something that I can do consistently. And like Mickey said, I've gone for the aggressive route just because I habit of sometimes missing a little thing here or there, or we go out with friends and do things, and the overall surplus over the week or over the day gets knocked back a little bit. So if we go aggressive, I know that it'll put me on average still in the right direction, and that's where I need to be.
Yeah.
In the past, it's just been like a bit hit and miss when we've tried to go for the smaller surplus. And also on the other side of that, if I gain a little bit more fat, I'm not worried. Like I said, I don't have a problem. That side's easy for me. It's more of a relief for me to eat a little bit less and to lose some fat. It's not a hassle at all.
Your body fat percentage still sits you at the moment between 10 to 15%. So even if you got pushed up closer to that 15% body fat range, you're still not going to be carrying too much excessive amounts of fat. Whereas if someone's going to go through this aggressive approach and they are in a calorie, like wanting to go down a calorie surplus route, I would just measure what your current body fat percentage is initially. As a male, anywhere sort of sub 15%, and for a female, anywhere sort of sub 20 to 25% body fat. If you're sitting outside of that, then I'd probably rein that body fat, body composition levels back in initially too.
As far as food choices, the old plan, I much prefer like a constant snacky approach throughout the day, less big meals. A lot of people say to me, like when I tell them how many calories, they're like, why don't you just go eat like a full pizza or a full Macca's, like I could hit these calories easy. The thing is, it's not that simple because it's the whole day we're planning for, and you eat one of those meals and your guts feel like crap and all that stuff, and it affects your food eating for the rest of the day. So it's not that simple. We have to eat foods that digest quickly and that don't upset my guts and allow me to keep keeping hunger levels up and keep getting more food in throughout the day, because 6 hours in is a lot. Maybe not for one day, but every day. And we've kind of kept that approach with the snacky stuff. It's just that the 2 big meals a day that I preferred didn't quite cut it, and they ended up just way too big with these extra calories in. So we've actually had to put in an extra big meal, main meal of chicken, potato, rice in the morning, and then the other 2 meals at lunch and after the gym, arvo, dinner, whatever, and then still having a heap of snacks around it. And that's allowed me to be a bit more balanced throughout the day and not just stuffing myself silly on those 2 big meals. So that's one of the changes we've had to make. Not something I really wanted to do, but pushing this uncomfortable amount of food in, there's not really a comfortable way to do it, and sometimes you just have to be disciplined, sacrifice a little bit, and just do it. Fortunately, there's no secret there.
It's going to minimise the amount of digestive distress as well that we're
doing
experiencing.
our best with it, but still, it's not going to be a pleasant
The first, I believe, I think you're a couple of days into it now, so the first 2 or 3 days he's going to feel quite uncomfortable just with the increase in volume of food and of course the total calories, so expect that, but you can train your stomach to adjust to the types of food that you're eating. So like you said before, if you're going to be filling up your surplus of calories with just like junk food or shit quality food, take into account that you're probably changing up the types of food that you're eating all the time, the sodium levels, which of course has an impact on the absorption process, and that's what can limit people to remaining in a surplus for extended periods of time as well. So you're probably going to be in this phase for, I'd say, at least the next sort of 3 to 6 months, excessively eating.
Hopefully it will less, we're on the lowest end of that. We'll see how fast we can get this 120. But as far as all the other little snacky stuff, it's the same as before. It's kind of palatable, easy digestive, light food, high dense calorie food. Crackers, biscuits,
cereal, juice,
fruit juice, some shakes, a little bit of protein powder now in shake. Fruit itself, dried fruit. So dried fruit in the juice, and some of the slow cooked veggies that are already kind of like soft. They allow me to get in the micros, they allow me to get into the fiber, they allow me to tick the boxes of like the health. So I can eat all these crackers, biscuits and all that stuff, and they just slam in the heavy calories that way, and still be quote unquote healthy. So that's the way I go about it, that way. There's a million different options, but they're the options that work for me, that I can just keep kind of unconsciously eating while I'm doing my work at home. They're the stuff that suits my lifestyle. probably not going to be the same for everybody else. If you're having to work somebody else and you're having set work hours and all that kind of stuff, snacking constantly, maybe it won't work for you, but that's just how it is for me. So,
and you can see as well on the meal plans that are coming up over the top of this video, there's probably quite a large amount of sugar in there in comparison, but you have to take into account the fact that Will is probably eating twice the amount of what an average person would be consuming. So of course things like fiber and sugar levels are going to be a little bit higher than the average person's intake as well, but we've kept the protein of good quality protein sources. We've got a variety of different fruits and vegetables in there, so a lot of the health markers have been ticked across that meal plan as well. Now, we had some other questions come up. Was there anything else that you wanted to...
Yeah, just quickly with the train. Obviously, when you're setting up a hypertrophy phase, is talking about getting in a good surplus with proper macros and ticking all your health boxes. That's all really cool. But even if you were doing that, unless your training is set up in an optimal way and your sleep, stress management, all that other crap is handled as well, you're not going to gain as much muscle as what you could. So alongside that, just a quick breakdown of that, we want it all heading in the same direction. We want everything working towards the same goal. So my training is very hypertrophy specific. A lot of exercises that allow me to push closer to muscular failure. Like I've been posting up, the hack squats, the RDLs, the machine work for upper body, stuff like that, that allows me to push for hypertrophy as opposed to being limited by technique and skill a little bit on other stuff. It's a bit higher volume than general. I'm going to switch to a 5-day plan with 3 days lower body, try and fix up some little hip issues, working with David Gray for that, as well as some local guys. So try and take care of the hypertrophy stimulus from a training point of view that way. That works in conjunction with the food to get my gains. And then with the sleep, I usually don't get issues with sleep until about 120 kilos, but as soon as I hit 120 kilos-ish, sometimes like a kilo, give or take, I need my CPAP, so I've got that. I've already got a CPAP.
It's funny, I remember when you first hit like 110 and the CPAP was like, you were snoring and stuff, but didn't really need it. But I think once you've like really pushed that 120 mark, like it became quite disruptive overall. So the CPAP's been
but the CPAP completely fixes it, so it'll be fine. It's just
until
something that I really want to use, but
you'll adjust to being that size and weight and stuff like that as well. If I stay there for a long time, that's
and I don't know if I will.
And then the CPAP may not have to be used all the time. Maybe.
Yeah, but it's better now in winter because in summer you put it on and it's just like sweating and it's yuck and but now I should be fine. Also been doing a bit more cardio, my heart rate, monitoring that seems to be heading in the right direction. My blood pressure's good. All these other little health markers seem to be good and lining up in the right direction as well. So everything's set up pretty well for optimal hypertrophy at the moment. That's the direction we're pushing things. So pretty happy with that overall as a plan. But yeah, we did have these couple of questions come through. I've already answered a bunch of them through what we've said already, but there was maybe a couple more. So we had questions on the various high calorie meal snack options that don't make you feel bloated. That's exactly what I said before. Make sure your fiber doesn't get out of hand. Make sure your protein doesn't go through the roof. Keep it at just where you need it, and preferably push up carbs and easy digestible sources instead to avoid that bloating and keep the appetite high.
If you're someone that does initially bloat from carbs, like, don't be afraid to have a little bit more fat in there initially as you start to transition them over. Like, a lot of people struggle to do that, so...
But it's just going to be easy digestible food that's able to get through quick.
Liquid calories is probably your best friend with that, juices.
How to do it without gaining too much fat? The answer would be a small surplus, but like we covered earlier, I don't really care too much. I know I can get that fat off in a fairly rapid amount of time compared to like sacrificing gains. So I'd rather just push for the gains, make sure I'm getting as much muscle mass coming on as possible because it's a really fucking slow process, and then I can lose the fat really quickly if I need to. So that's not so much of a concern to me. Once you've done it a few times and you're okay with it mentally, it's a much easier way to go about it than that, other than like trying to trickle on your gains so you're not getting fat and then potentially losing out on a little bit of muscle mass because, like I said, it's a much slower process than losing fat. So if you can mentally deal with it, do it that way. Digestion protocols whilst putting around large amount, I think just choosing the right foods, like we said, and there's no particular digestion protocols for me other than eating the good, like having the right foods and staying hydrated and moving around and all that stuff.
You're pretty lucky that you've just always been used to eating, and I think the grazing across the day helps, as opposed to having larger, if you don't get a head start on if you're in a surplus and you're struggling to get the food in, start earlier in the day as well. If you're leaving it until 9 or 10 o'clock that you have your first lot of food, you're saving it too late in the day, I believe. You need to get a head start as soon as you can.
Got a few different questions on increasing appetite and or still eating when full. Unfortunately, it's going to be uncomfortable and it's not fun and forcing it in a lot of the time. Like I'm still full from the previous meal and I'm getting in this meal, but that's just kind of part of it. It's like, it's not super comfortable squatting on 1 RM as well, but it's part of what we do and it's part of getting ahead. So sometimes we have to just be uncomfortable to get where we want to get in life, to reach those goals.
I think though for a lot of people though, if you're picking the right types of food, like you should be.
Oh, this is me personally. This is like pushing the limits type thing. Like sometimes you're just gonna have to do.
Just look at the food volumes that you're having. Like Will found in the previous meal plan, we were having quite a bit of rice, and like months ago, and that was just too much volume for him. So interchanging rice for something like couscous, which probably halved the amount of food that was sitting in the bowl. So just making conscious choices like that will go a long way.
And last but not least, Tim brought up how many packaged crackers a day am I having now. Fortunately as well, it has been reduced to just 1 a day from 2, and that is a boycott against Woolworths because we noticed that they're not putting it on special very often anymore, and I don't want to pay $2.20 a packet. They really need to pick up their game. I'm calling out Woolworths. Pick up your game, put more specials on. I'll buy boxes and boxes when you do. But until then, I am cutting out the amount I buy, which will heavily impact your business, and that's a massive threat towards Woolworths. So
even though you're
I have to do it. They've forced me. They've forced my hand. They've forced me. They've said, they've tried to cut me off, so I'm cutting them off back. So hopefully they fucking pick up their act, right?
Well done.
Yeah, that's about it. Pretty happy with that. Covers all the bases. If anybody has any more questions with that, absolutely shoot them through. I'm happy to answer, happy to help out other people that are in a similar situation that perhaps have a little bit of trouble gaining, and I can share my experience and my little tricks and whatnot with you.
If you're after some more personalised coaching, we of course offer once-off consultations with the nutrition coaches here at Nexus Performance, and then of course there's the one-on-one alternative coaching as well, which will give you a more personalised approach and help guide you through this process yourself over a course of a few weeks. So if you need help with that, competition nutrition, anything like that, weight cutting, just shout out to us, send us an email, or get in contact on our website.